dawn broke over the kingdom like a blade drawn slowly across the sky. Pale light crept over the palace walls, touching the domes and towers with a color too gentle for the cruelty that lived within them. King Shahryar stood alone on a high balcony, watching the city awaken beneath him. Merchants lifted their shutters. Guards changed their watch. Birds stirred in the gardens. Life continued, unaware that death had already been summoned. The memory of the valley still clung to him, the giant's breath, heavy and monstrous, the locked chest opening, as if by mockery of all laws, the woman's smile, calm and triumphant, surrounded by the glitter of rings taken from kings who believed themselves secure. That image had burned itself into Shahryar's mind, deeper even than the sight of his wife's betrayal. It was not merely infidelity that haunted him now, but the certainty that loyalty itself was an illusion. Power could not command it. Fear could not prevent it. Even magic could not contain it. Behind him, the doors to the balcony opened softly. Servants knelt, their foreheads pressed to the stone floor, trembling as they awaited his command. Shahryar did not turn to look at them. "Bring her," he said. They obeyed at once. She was young, barely more than a girl, her hands shaking beneath the veil that covered her face. Chosen the night before, adorned in silks and jewels, she had entered the palace, believing herself favored by fate. Now she stood at the edge of dawn, her future already sealed. Shahryar looked at her as one might look at a fading candle briefly, without attachment, already prepared for darkness. When the sword fell, it was swift. No cry echoed across the courtyard. No protest reached the ears of the waking city. Another life ended, another night concluded, and the cycle resumed. The body was carried away, the blood washed from the stone, and the palace returned to its false splendor as if nothing had occurred. But something had changed within the king. This was no longer an act born of rage alone. It had become a ritual, a law, a shield forged from cruelty to protect his shattered heart from the possibility of pain. Each execution was a declaration to the world. Betrayal would be answered before it could be born. The people whispered in fear. Fathers hid their daughters. Mothers wept into their hands. The city lived under a cloud heavier than any storm, knowing that each sunset brought with it another silent funeral at dawn. And still, Shahryar felt no peace. Nights passed marked not by rest but by vigilance. He slept lightly, his dreams haunted by locked chests and mocking laughter. When he woke, the echo of the giant's valley lingered in his thoughts, feeding the belief that all women, given time and opportunity, would betray. It was on one such morning that the Grand Vizier was summoned to the throne room. The old man walked slowly, his steps careful, his heart heavy with knowledge he wished he did not possess. He knelt before the king, his voice trembling as he spoke. "My lord," he said, "the city grows quiet with terror. Houses stand empty. Soon, there will be no daughters left to bring before you." Shahryar regarded him coldly. "Then, search farther," he replied. "Every household, every corner of my realm. My law will not bend." The vizier bowed his head, but despair clouded his eyes. He had carried out the king's commands night after night, delivering maidens to their deaths with hands stained by guilt he could never wash away. Each dawn aged him further, carving sorrow into his face. That night, as he returned home, the vizier found his eldest daughter waiting for him. Scheherazade stood tall and composed, her eyes bright with an intelligence that had long set her apart. She had been raised on history and poetry, on tales of kings and jinn, on the wisdom hidden within stories. Where others saw entertainment, she saw meaning. Where others feared silence, "You look as though you carry the weight of the world," she said gently. The vizier said nothing at first. He could not bring himself to speak of the horrors he had witnessed, the blood he had delivered by command. But Scheherazade already knew. The city whispered, and she had heard every murmur. "I will go to the king," she said. The words struck him like a blow. "No," he said at once, fear breaking through his restraint. "You must never speak of this again." "But I must," she replied calmly. "Someone must." He pleaded with her, his voice breaking as he reminded her of the fate that awaited every bride. But Scheherazade did not waver. She had seen the fear in the streets, the grief behind closed doors. She understood that the king's madness would not end on its own. It would consume the kingdom entirely. "There is another way," she said. "Not through force, not through defiance, but through words." The vizier shook his head, tears gathering in his eyes. "Words cannot stop a sword." Scheherazade met his gaze. "They can delay it," she said softly, "one night at a time." That night, Shahryar sat upon his throne as the next bride was announced. When Scheherazade entered the chamber, the king paused. There was something different in her berry no trembling, no desperate hope in her eyes. Only calm, resolve. He studied her for a long moment. "You know the fate of those who come before me," he said. "I do," she replied. "And still you come willingly." "Yes," intrigued despite himself. Shahryar gestured for her to speak. "Grant me one request," Scheherazade said. "Allow my younger sister to sit with us tonight. She fears the dark, and I wish to comfort her." The request was harmless. Amused, the king agreed. As night deepened, Scheherazade began to speak. Her voice flowed like water, weaving a tale of distant lands and ancient kings, of magic bound within jaws and destinies shaped by clever minds. The story drew Shahryar, despite his resistance, each word planting a seed of curiosity. Time slipped past unnoticed as the tale grew richer, darker, more compelling. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, Scheherazade fell silent. The king leaned forward. "Continue," he commanded. "Dawn approaches," she said softly. "If I live, I will finish the story tomorrow night." Shahryar hesitated. The first light of morning brushed the edges of the chamber. He had sworn an oath, one bride, one night, one death at dawn. Yet curiosity, long buried beneath rage, stirred within him. "Very well," he said at last. "You will live." For now Scheherazade lowered her head, hiding a small, knowing smile. Beyond the palace walls, the sun rose once more. Another dawn arrived without blood. And somewhere in the heart of a broken king, the faintest crack appeared in the armor of cruelty he had forged around himself. But the sword had not been set aside. It merely waited,